Hello? Can you hear me? Are you paying attention? Because what I'm about to explain in this next episode is the part of the housing conversation that almost no one wants to say out loud. See, in the last episode, we talked about the warning that has already been issued. HUD put you on notice when they told you they were putting a cap on Section 8 and permanent supportive housing at 30%. And thank God the courts stepped in, but guess what? Them stepping in does not mean safety. It means stress. So welcome to Live for Free, where we transform lives through real estate. And in today's episode, this is the second episode of our 6-part series on how to prevent a housing collapse. I want to spend time talking about why the system is stressed in the first place. And I want you to stay with me until the very end of this episode, because once you understand how housing became federally over-leveraged, you will also understand why the next shock to the system will not be small and it will not be contained. So go ahead and let's jump right in. Now, housing did not become unstable overnight. We know this, right? It became unstable slowly, quietly, and legally. See, over the last several decades, we've made decisions in this country to centralize housing solutions at the federal level. And I can sort of see how people think the federal government should be able to handle housing, but every time there was a gap, we filled it with a federal program. And every time there was a crisis, we felt it during the pandemic. They expanded federal funding. And then every time something failed locally, we looked upward instead of inward. And at first, that looked like progress, like people were making some things happen, we were doing some things, but more and more that we started relying on that, the federal dollars literally brought scale and they brought uniform standards as well as the appearance of stability. But something else happened at the same time. What happened while that was happening, you had states that were then adjusting their budgets, and they were taking money from housing and putting it in other places. And then you had communities that were adjusting as well. They were adjusting their expectations as well as the things that they needed. And at the local level, those solutions started to disappear. So as those things happened and the federal funding increased, you had states and communities that were relaxed. They were not doing everything that they used to do. So when the federal funding programs also expanded during our crises, you had communities that disengaged. And why build a local infrastructure when federal money was flowing? That was the mindset of everyone. And as that happened, that was where dependency formed. And now you can see how dependency is where we sit. We have a system that is almost 60% dependent or more in some states on that funding. And it starts with convenience, because once you are moving into a position where you've got that type of dependency and that type of convenience, then it becomes dangerous when it replaces responsibility. The responsibility of our states to provide housing, the responsibility of our communities to do what's necessary. Federal funding was really never designed to carry housing alone. It was actually designed to supplement and not replace what the state and what communities participated in. So now we're seeing it. Now we're seeing over time how the balance has shifted. And as I said earlier, you got states that are over 60% of their funding comes from the federal government. Here in Missouri alone, I think we were like at 68% or 63%. But even if I don't have the number right, we know it's over 60% of housing related funding that now comes in just from the federal government. And guess what? That number should stop you. Because when you hear that happening and caps actually being placed potentially on programs, that would make me run and try to figure something out. So because when you have more of that, more than half of a system relying on one single source, that source is actually becoming that single point of failure. And that's what we're experiencing. And Missouri is not the exception. It's actually an example like other states. We have states across this country who have built housing systems that are deeply dependent on federal dollars. So when HUD even discusses changing the entire system, they're going to react. They're going to react to what is happening. Providers are panicking. You've got operators bracing for what's happening, and you've got people scrambling, trying to figure out what to do. And that reaction tells you everything that you need to know. It tells you that when you have a system like this, you need to put this panic into a discussion. Don't panic. Let's start talking about it. This is the time now that we need to adjust and figure out what to do differently. Because even though you've got the courts who have stepped in and they've revealed that technically that's not going to be the protection that we're going to need, we need to do something different, because all the courts have done for us is slowed it down. It's slowed down to a point where now we can pause and regroup, get together at the state level, get together at the community level, and figure out what our next plans are, because it's not going to go away. It will come back again. But now we have time to figure it out, and we have time to put something in place to make sure that we can move forward. So states, as you, and I'm talking to you leaders who are out there as our state representatives, you need to get together and figure out how we can absorb what could potentially happen. And that's the part that we need to do. So we do not have right now the reserves, even at the state level, to be able to handle this. There's no money sitting idly by to be able to address this. They don't even have the parallel systems waiting to activate if this happens. And I really want to say not if, but when. Because for years, they have built their budgets assuming that federal dollars would remain consistent. Well, that assumption is a trap. We are now sitting in a situation where federal funding is going to tighten, especially now that there's the fraud going on with Section 8. All of those things literally forces action to be taken. So clearly some things are going to happen with that. And we must not forget the community, because the community cannot suddenly reappear after decades of disengagement as well. So we need to think about how we as a community of leaders can come together and figure out how to now engage and now create something that can be successful. And this is why over leveraged systems do not fail gracefully. It will be an impact if we're not considerate of how this is going to move. Because what's going to happen is it's going to contract. And when contraction happens, it always moves downward. And we know who that impacts when that happens. It doesn't typically hit the executives first, nor is it hitting policymakers first. It's going to hit our programs. It's going to hit the people who operate the programs. It's going to hit the people who are barely housed to begin with. This is what is about to happen. So the dependency trap does not announce itself. It actually reveals itself when the system is stressed. So remember, right now, Our system is stressed. So it's been revealed to us of what we're sitting with. So the warning was not the proposed cap. The warning was how fragile the response was. So if one policy discussion can destabilize an entire housing ecosystem, then that ecosystem was never stable to begin with. And this is not about assigning blame. So hear me. I'm not blaming anyone. This is just what has happened over time, and nobody could have predicted this to happen. But what it is telling us is the truth. And that is that we cannot build a sustainable housing model with one single provider giving all of the funding in that pillar and expecting it to hold. Everyone has a responsibility that they have to play in making this work. And we cannot wait for the collapse and then all of a sudden claim that we were surprised, because that's not so. Leadership is going to require foresight in this model. So we need to come together as leaders and be honest about what is happening in our communities and figure out what to do next. So if this episode blessed you, then you're really going to want to stay on for the next episode, where we're talking about how you can move into the next phase, and hopefully those contractions don't impact us too fully. And if you've not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and do so now. Go ahead and subscribe and get notifications, so when the next episodes launch, you'll be one of the first people to be notified. So let's go ahead and transform our communities to get ready for the work that we are about to do. So stay with me, because what we do next matters.